What's up everybody, and welcome to a new video. And in this video we're gonna go over my notes for the status bar in VS Code. So what is the status bar? It's this horizontal bar here at the bottom of the window, and depending on the specific context, this bar can have different colors. And those different colors here, they depend on what color theme you are using. So for example, I am using this dark plus color theme, and for that theme the status bar is blue when there is a workspace opened, it is purple when there's no workspace opened, and when you are debugging a file, then the status bar turns orange, as you will see here. Okay, here now it's orange, and if I now stop debugging, it turns back to blue again. Okay, so this is the first point that I wanted to mention. So then the second point states that a status bar provides information and respective functionality related to the current workspace and or open files. And it consists of these elements here. And the first one is open a remote window. So this is this element here. And this deals with remote development. And as I said in the first video of the series, this is one of those additional topics that I'm not going to cover in more detail. So if you want to know more about that, then you would need to check out this link here. Okay, so then the next point is about errors, warnings, and infos. So this is this element here, and it lists the total number of errors, warnings, and infos for all opened editors. So for example, currently there are 0 errors, 0 warnings, and 100 infos. And however, if I open this file here, for example, then now there's 1 error, 1 warning, and 101 infos. And if you click this element, then this opens the problems view. And we've already talked about the problems view, namely here in the panel and then default views. So I will put a link to that video into the video description. Okay, so then the next element is the cursor position. So this is this element here, and this simply depicts the line number and column number depending on the current cursor position. So for this position it says line 1, column 1. However, if I put the cursor here, then it says line 187 and column 13. And if you click this element, then you can specify to which line you want to jump. So for example, if I put in here a 1, then we can jump to line 1. Okay, so now let's get to the next element, which is the indentation specification. And it's this element, and with it you can specify what indentation you want to use. So for example, in this file here we have, it's currently set to 4 spaces, and if you want to change that, then simply click this element, and then here you have the 2 options to indent using spaces or indent using tabs. So let's use spaces, and let's set this to 8 here, and now it says here 8 spaces. So let's check if that works. And if I now press enter, then you see that it's not really working, or only for a short moment, but that's because there's a specific Python auto indent setting. So let's turn this first off. So let's go to the settings, and then here search for Python auto indent. So here, so this, let's turn this off. And now again, if I press enter, now we have actually 8 spaces as the indentation. However, this only changes the specification for this particular file. So for example, if you go back to file 2, then here it's still at 4 spaces. So this is how you can change the indentation specification. However, there are also some additional options. Namely, here with this option you can detect the indentation from the content. So for example, let's make here 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's add a print statement. And now if I pick this option here, detect indentation from content, now it says 6 spaces are used. Okay, so then the next 2 options here is to convert indentation to spaces or convert indentation to tabs. So let's convert it into tabs. And now it says here tab size 6. And if you highlight this here, then you see that there here now is an error. And if we transform it, for example, back to spaces, then we have here these 6 dots. Okay, so that's that option. And then lastly, here we have an option to trim trailing white space. So let's add some white space here. And now let's trim that. So if we trim that, then this white space is gone. Okay, so then the next element is the file encoding. And this is this one. And if you click that, what you can do is then you can reopen the file with a specific encoding or save it within a specific encoding. So let's, for example, here choose reopen, and then you get a list with different available encodings. So then the next element is the end of line sequence. So this is this element, and here you can switch between LF and CRLF. And if you want to know more about that, then you can follow this link here. Okay, so then the next element is the language mode, and this is this one here. And this simply depicts the language of the currently active editor. So for example, right now the nodes.md file is active, so that's why it says here Markdown. And if we switch to this Python file, then now it says Python. And for some languages, there is some additional information depicted. For example, here for Python, left to it, there are some Python specific notifications. And here to the right, it states the current environment. And if you click that, you can then switch to another environment, or you can create a new one. So then the next element is related to GitHub Copilot, and it's this element here. And as I said in the first video of this series, this is again also one of those additional topics that I'm not going to cover in more detail. So if you want to know more about that, you should check out this link here. Okay, so now let's get to the last element of the status bar, which is the notifications bell. So this is this one here. And if there is a notification, then it will be indicated via a dot on this bell. So for example, if I create here a new file for a language that I haven't installed. So let's use, for example, C. If I save that, then here we get a notification if you want to install this specific extension pack, and then here you can install it if you want to. And here on the toolbar, then you have some more actions, or you can clear this notification. And if you click this bell, then you also have here in this toolbar, you can clear all notifications, configure do not disturb, or then simply hide the notifications. Okay, so with that, now we have covered all the points that I wanted to cover with this second point here. Okay, so now let's get to the side note here. And this states that additional information might be added to the status bar by different features within VS Code or by different extensions. So let's first look at an example how a feature within VS Code can add some information. Namely, therefore, I have prepared this folder here. And this is version controlled with Git. And here I've opened that folder in the workspace. And here in the status bar, now we have this additional information which shows us what the currently checked out branch is. Okay, so that's that first example. Then an example for an extension that adds some additional information. For example, is this Jupyter extension. So if I open here a Jupyter file, then you can see here this additional information, and this tells us that we are in cell 1 of 4. So for example, then if I go to this cell, then it states cell 3 of 4. And then also, if I, for example, scroll down here, if you click this element, then it jumps to the respective cell. So this is the side note here. And with that now, we've covered all the points that I want to mention with respect to the status bar. So then in the next video, we're gonna go over my notes for the settings. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.